Hello, welcome Tom Yedson. I hope you're all well. So this is, an impromptu live show, really, ahead of this weekend's game against Newcastle. The Toon are coming to town. Toon are coming to London Stadium. I'm sure all the Geordies out there, all the Newcastle United fans, are licking their lips. They can't wait to come to the London Stadium, just as any other team, but especially the way they're playing, the way we're playing. They got to be feeling really confident. And I wanted to make this live show early evening because I've got a few things on tonight as well, and I'm sure you have too. But I thought I'd do this live show because I thought I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about Nuno's press conference again, which didn't fill me with a lot of enthusiasm. I know there's some positivity out there, reaction to it. I've got to say I wasn't that positive. I don't know what you guys thought. Let us know in the comments below or in the live chat later on. But I am going to be talking about the protest as well, because I think it needs a bit of a push on this one as well. Look, if you check in the description below, I think it's there. Oh no, maybe it isn't there. But you have to go to the website, which is, let me just bring it up on here so I can remember it myself. It's a https://bsout.co.uk. That's for the petition. Go and sign the petition. I don't know what the current number is. It's about 20 odd, 17, 18,000. I don't know what it is right now. We're trying to get as many signatures on there as well, because of the Burnley game. That's going to be presented to the club along with the protest march and everything like that. So as many signatures on that as possible. Just get on there and sign off. Now I'm sure it's been repeated so many times. Lots of people would say it, and I was one of these people as well, always in the past. What does a petition do? What does a protest do? The thing is, apathy. It lets, what's the saying? Apathy lets evil flourish, or something like that. I can't read. In the comments, let us know what you think it is. But if you do nothing, then things just carry on as normal, or they get worse, or people get away with things all the time. And in terms of running the club, it will just perpetuate. It just keep on getting same old. Nothing will ever change. That's why you got to stand up and do something. In my opinion, okay, well, you have your own opinion on what you want to do, but in my opinion, that's what I want to do. I boycotted the last game in principle for that protest as well. I'm ready to go with my flag as well, right? I'm ready to go. I'm going to be holding this up certainly at the end of the game as well. Now, a couple of things about this flag. I've heard rumours that the club are not happy with this flag because of the caricatures of David Sullivan and Karen Brady. Well, the point is they're not offensive. They're caricatures, but they're not offensive in any way, shape or form. The flag, it has not got any profanity on it at all, and also it's smaller than the maximum size permissible. Okay, so the only thing is that you can't obstruct another fan's view when you're holding this up, right? So whether holding up the game or in the protests after the game, the sit-in protest, there should be no reason why any steward should come up to me and try and take this out of my hands. If they do, they're going to have a bit of a problem. Now, I was watching, who was it? West Ham Fan TV, I think it was last night. We was on with Nick Tucker, and he was basically saying that they've had communications with the board. They've had communications with the club. I don't know who within the board, or any with the board. I don't know exactly who it was. But they were basically saying that they're not too happy about these protest flags. The other ones they're not too concerned about, but they've instructed the stewards to not restrict us in any way in terms of movement. This is what my plan is, and I'm not saying what your plan is, but my plan is not to walk to the Bobby Moore lower for the sit-in protest. Not because I don't want to. I just got a feeling that some bright spark is going to this is a stewards, they're going to try and get all uppity on us, and it's going to cause confrontation, and that's the last thing you want to do in terms of generating sympathy for our cause, or the fans' cause against the club. Really, it's always got to be a peaceful protest. So for me, I'm just going to sit in my seat. I'm going to hold my flag up, and that's the way it is. I mean, that's what I'm going to do, and I'll probably be holding up during the game as well. Certainly at the start of the game. And it's not about not supporting the team and the players and everything like that. They need all the support they can get. Let's face it, put it that way. But they need to be held accountable. As for everything that they do, and it's certainly Nuno as well. But in terms of this, there's no reason why they should be trying to take it off my hands or anybody else's hands as well. And if they do, then obviously they're going to have some resistance there as well. I won't be happy. I'm the mild-mannered janitor of everything, really. I never rise to anything, and I hate any kind of physicality or confrontation in any form, and I just think but if you've got a legitimate cause and you've got a reason to hold something, especially unoffensive, and they're going to try and take it away from you, then obviously there's a problem, and they're overstepping, they're overreaching, and the club's going to will face legal proceedings if they do that, and certainly LLDC or whoever owns a freaking stadium these days, and the stewards will as well. There will be legal proceedings against them if they try this, in my opinion. But listen, that's I could go on a big rant here, but in terms of the sit-in protest, what does it achieve? The whole point is that I go back to my previous point about apathy, right? If you don't do nothing, then things never change. There's a good argument, no doubt, there's a good argument to say, well, what does a sit-in protest do? Surely there's a better way to do it, right? I get it. There's always other ideas out there. There's always other things that people could do, and people should make their own suggestions, and people should do their own thing as well. So for me, as long as it's always peaceful, it's always lawful, it's always with consultation in terms of protests and marches and things like that. In terms of consultation with the police, it's got to be done properly. It's always got to be done right, and this is the way this is being aimed at. The intention is always to be like that. So it's got to be allowed to happen, and fans have got to be allowed to express their anger, their disappointment, and that they want change. Okay, it's not a dictatorship here that we're not allowed to say anything. We're supposed to say something. We're supposed to voice our concerns. We're supposed to hold the custodians of the club accountable for what they do, what they say, and the failures that they have, and the failures that they consistently have. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what just as fans are supposed to be accountable for their own actions, of course, in terms of how we operate. We also got to hold the players and the manager accountable for their performances and the intensity that they give and the willingness they show to fight for every ball. So, in terms of the protest, it's going to be a sit-in after the game. The intention is to everybody to go to the Bobby Moore lower section, or you can just sit in your seat. I'm choosing just to sit in my seat. I'm thinking that. Okay, let me just put it this way: of the petition which I've been pushing for a while, which started by Claret and Booze, right? A few months ago, I've been pushing it a lot on my YouTube channel, of course, here, and reference it, and it flashes up in terms of a card, to go to that website. Okay, bsout.co.uk. It is disappointing in many ways that it's only got, whatever it is, 18,000 signatures when we've got a huge fan base. So the apathy is there. Definitely the apathy is there from fans not to want to engage with this. Now, it could just be apathy, or I could be just harsh there, because I always say this: don't always assume that every fan is on YouTube, every fan is on social media, every fan even pays much of an attention in terms of the social media side. They just go to the games, they listen to the results, that kind of thing. So there's supposedly always going to be different levels of fans in terms of how engaged you are with the whole running of the club. Or are you one of those fans who just, you want your team to do well, you are a fan, you're an ardent fan, but you just really listen out for the results, and You want to watch the team play, either on TV, online, or actually physically go to the games, however many games you could get to, right? Whether you're a season ticket holder or whether you're just the occasional fan. No one is better than the other, in my opinion. I've always had this opinion. No one is better than the other. It doesn't matter if you've been going for 60 years every week or you just started last week. A fan is a fan as far as I'm concerned. But obviously there are different levels in terms of how involved you get in this sort of stuff. And for my part, I've always had a bit of a problem with any club, but certainly our club, that treat the fans with contempt or treat us badly. And I don't know if I've ever said this certainly on this channel. I think I mentioned it in the past. I really fell out of favour with the club over the bond scheme years ago. I was 21, 22 at the time, something like that. I was going to away games, occasional away games, and, wanted to go to home games. And I was at that point where I was just getting enough money. And I thought, I want to try and be a season ticket holder. And I want to go down to Upton Park as often as I could. And, this is a lot for somebody who didn't live in London. I was living in the Midlands, right? For a young lad. Or I wanted to try and go on a regular basis. And money was tight. And I didn't have a lot of money at all. And when I was made aware of the bond scheme, I thought, this is my club ripping me off. They're trying to they're trying to rip me off. They don't want me, they just want my money, and they don't even care about. And this is the way I've felt, and I know a lot of other fans sort of reacted to it. And games that I went to afterwards in the following years, there's always something that wasn't quite right with the way we were being treated at times, in terms of the Brown, and in terms of I was there protesting in a couple of games as well, trying to get the Browns out as well. And it frustrates me that I've got very close and I've distanced myself over the years. I've almost been like this kind of concertina effect with the club in terms of how close I want to be, in terms of how it affects me personally, right? And, I've always been that fan that really wanted to listen to results. I want to watch the team. I'm really interested in how we play, and I want us to perform well. But I've never expected great things. I never expected us to be fantastic, right? But, always want that. Even when I distanced myself, that affection or that interest, that avid interest never changed. But obviously sometimes I wanted to go back. So under the Icelandics, I was kind of with raised eyebrows the whole time, because I was wondering what the bloody hell's going on here. I was thinking the other day, I would love, I don't know what you guys think, the Pards at the time, I would love, some people say, who would you like to have dinner with? Who would you like to have a sit down with? And lots of people say, oh, I'd love to have sit down with Gandhi, or, with the Dalai Lama, or whatever. No, I'd like to sit down with Pards and actually pick his brains and say, what the hell was going on behind the scenes there? How did you get Mascherano and Tevez in? What was going on behind the scenes? I've heard all the stories, but I'd love to hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. So there was lots of things at the time, and then obviously they took over as well, Sullivan and Gold. And initially I thought, okay, the intention is there, what they're saying. I kind of fell for it a little bit for a year or so, and then I thought, hold on a minute, what's going on here? And it just got worse and worse and worse. So this is why the last sort of 15 years, the club has pulled me back in terms of this intensity to really want to see that our club is run properly, and that the fan base is treated properly. And it's gone downhill like that. And, it's really gone downhill in terms of the way we're treated, in terms of the way our feelings are represented. And I just don't, that's it. That's why I'm so pro the protest, so pro the petition, so pro doing whatever you can to try and usher this current ownership out and get them to leave, or get them to appoint somebody else to run the club and let them have nothing to do with it. Whatever it is, just get them out. And this is why, I keep on putting this upside down, but yeah, definitely definitely just get out of our club, just go. And that's why I'll be protesting. And I'll be to say I protested the Brentford game by not going. It's always, I always say this, and I always have to caveat this: as long as everything is always peaceful, as long as everything is always done legitimately and properly in terms of protest, I'm 100% behind it, and I'm 100% for it, and I'll always publicise. But as soon as we hope that nothing ever happens, but tempers can get flared, and that's the problem, because this is what people hold really dearly. So I'm just wondering, when I hold this up, how many people are going to be around me at the end of the game, me sat in my seat. I just wonder, because I just wonder that there might be so much apathy there in a lot of the fans that do go, whether they're even going to stay to the end, especially if we're getting spanked, right? But I think it's really important to try and stay as long as you can. 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is, an hour, however long you can stay there. And if I decide to stay 15, 20 minutes, hey, listen, the point is, it's to try and get attention. It's to trying to get the press, get the journalists talking about it, get the TV cameras just to, look at this and get a shot of this, right? That's what it is. Hold up and just say, look, this is what we're protesting against. This is what we want. This is, and it's not necessarily about having anything more than that. It's about immediate impact, and it's getting the journalists and everybody to say, look, we haven't gone away. We're still here. We're still fighting the cause. We're still making sure that we're going to hold everybody to account here. But I just wonder how many fans, I don't know. I hope that as many fans are going to stay back as possible. I hope that, fans will be kind of understanding in many ways. If everybody says we want to go to the Bobby Moore lower, then there's a real risk here of surging, getting to that point. And it could be a case that, they suddenly say, no, we can't let anybody in, right? It's just over full, right? I don't want to think about negative thoughts in terms of how bad it can get, but you got to consider that if all the fans in the stadium who wanted to stay suddenly want to converge in there, they're not going to fit, right? So I would say, look, in many ways, actually, just be aware, you might want to just stay in your seat as well. You might be as effective, in fact, even more effective, just to stay in your seat after going, especially when they're doing post-match interviews and stuff on the edge of the pitch and stuff, and we're all there, screaming and shouting and stuff like that. It might be better. It might be better, but but listen, so in terms of the apathy, in terms of whether people want to stay to the end of the game, that. So I've said my piece in terms of that. Let's just talk about the game, right? Because because that's what I'm going for. I always go for the game. I always go for the experience. I always go with the hope that we're going to win. I hope that we can put on a performance. I hope that we can put up a fight. And that's what we haven't seen. We haven't seen that fight. Excuse me. We haven't seen that fight, have we? We haven't seen that fight from the players in such a long time. Individuals occasionally, but in terms of a collective, in terms of a group, we haven't seen that in a long time. And under Luno, it's just gone really, really bad, right? And I don't know if you saw the press conference today, and it's his usual rhetoric. And I think I was on there and I made a comment saying, look, the Nuno Kane he deflects and he talks in riddles a lot of the time. And I'm kind of wondering, what's he actually saying half the time? What does he actually mean? Every now and again, one of the journalists will ask a quite poignant question, and he's like, ooh, what again? It's almost got a bit fed up of people asking the same question. Well, they're asking the same question because you're not providing any answers and you're not providing any solutions. And that's the problem. I'm not convinced that he knows how to improve on what he's seen last week, the week before. He says he wanted to change it up because he wasn't quite happy with the Arsenal game. And this is where it doesn't quite make sense, because he wanted to change it after the Arsenal game. He experimented with the Brentford game. Obviously, it wasn't right. He tried to change it up in the second half. But then he went back to a similar kind of system or setup for the Leeds game. So, hold on. If you wanted to change it for the Arsenal game and it went completely wrong for the Brentford game, why have you kind of replicated almost what was in the Brentford game? for Leeds. It just doesn't make sense. And, so this is what I'm talking about. He's deflecting and there's riddles. So he's talking about individual players and he's talking about, we already know that Paqueta's starting, right? Because he told us. He's told us, okay, you could argue it's not exactly giving the game away because he's kind of a shoo-in to start, right? But then the other thing he was talking about, I spoke to Paqueta, he didn't want to talk about, Paqueta potentially going in January, whether that's false information or not, who knows? And I'm not going to really discuss that because it could well be, right? And Paqueta's reaction to it with a photo with him and his kids in the London Stadium and all that kind of stuff, with a kit and everything like that. Great, fine, no problem, right? But I see a couple of people in the chat. Oh, hello, teammate. How are you? Thanks for joining. And anybody else here, leave your comments in the chat and leave your comments afterwards if you're watching this afterwards as well. But in terms of Paqueta, again, this is Nuno. He absolutely confuses the hell out of me because I'm just kind of wondering, well, hold on a minute. You're telling us, the fan base, the journalists, but the wider fan base, you're telling us this, that you're speaking to Paqueta because you're having deep meaningful conversation in Paqueta, right? And you're speaking to him and you're saying how important it is to be number 10 and, have the 10 and what it means and to not just to be in the 10, but how it affects everybody else. I'm paraphrasing here. Go and watch the press conference to see exactly what he said. But this is essentially what he's on about, right? So then, my point here is that if you want him in a 10, why are you playing him in a false 9 for the Brentford game? Why have other managers put him in there? You've seen him with other managers. Potter put him up there as a false 9, up there, before, and it completely failed. So you went and did it. So why are you saying it's so important for him to be in a 10? Or, what we think, either a 10 or 8 or whatever it is, you should be playing a lot deeper, right? As some kind of bit of a playmaker for us, right? So why are you giving the importance of a 10 when you're playing him out of position anyway? It doesn't make sense. Whatever he's saying doesn't make sense. I said, I'm not convinced. Let me know. I'm not convinced that he knows what the hell he's talking about. I really don't. I really don't think he knows what the hell he's talking about. I've made my feelings known about Nuno in terms of, I said from the, I made a video few days ago, whatever it was, I said, the first game against Everton, I thought there's an opportunity to win, and there was something nagging me. I thought I wasn't quite sure if I was happy or not with the result, and I was happy or not with what he'd done. But, he's only been there a couple of days, right? Of course, he came away with a great win, great point. In fact, in many ways, considering how long he'd been there, that's almost like a win, right? He goes to Arsenal and we were totally impotent. We had nothing to offer. So that's when I started to start being critical a little bit in my mind. It was like, Nuno's got to take a lot of blame here. He's not beyond criticism here. But then we had the Brentford and Leeds game. And I thought, well, hold on, this just confirmed there's something that wasn't right. So I was like, look, he's got to go. He's got to go. He's not the right person. Now, people, have counter arguments to that and different opinions. And quite right, this is all about opinions, okay? I've never said that my opinion is right. But what I'm saying, I'm seeing something in the way he's performed. And also, he repeats the mistakes again. And it's terrible the way we're playing. And it's almost like he's trying to do it just to justify his previous mistakes. And you kind of think, well, what are you doing? What are you doing with us? And obviously, I'm one of those ones who probably started the conspiracy. Maybe he's just doing this on purpose. Maybe he wants a way out. Maybe he's come in and he thought, what a load of old crap that I'm seeing here. Your mind wanders. Because there's no logical reason for him to make those kinds of decisions unless something's going wrong. So when he gives the press conference today and he's talking about Newcastle and the game against Newcastle, and he's saying, we have to improve, we're going to try, we have to improve. And all week I've been making little short videos, taking the piss, mocking the players, mocking the club, mocking the manager and everything. And if you watch them, I hope you enjoy them, right? Because at the end of the day, when I get frustrated, I start taking the piss. It's as simple as that. I've always been the same. I just can't help it. If I get frustrated with things, I get angry, in myself. But at the same time, I also start taking the piss because it's just like, well, what are you going to do, right? But then he starts talking about, oh, we're going to try harder, we're going to, we've got to improve, we've got to get better. So, no shit, Sherlock, we've got to do that. But it didn't give a clear idea of... It's almost like he was saying to me, this is what I was hearing, and maybe I heard something different, and maybe other people heard something different as well. But I heard that he was still trying to figure out if that system could work in different scenarios. My real fear is that he might make a few changes in terms of the players that he puts in. But I've got a feeling that it's going to be something very similar to what we've already seen in terms of Leeds, in terms of Brentford. It could be, or he could go back to what we saw at Everton and what we saw at Arsenal, which is, we had nothing up front. So he was right to address that we had nothing going forward. But what he did was actually take us, 10 steps back in his decision making. And that's the problem. Tom Lesky, I didn't expect anything from the Arsenal game, but these last two games have tipped me over hope-wise. Ridiculous decision regardless of how long he's been there. I completely agree. Ridiculous decisions, right? So there's a lot to be answered. And it just doesn't fill me with confidence. Now, I know, of course, in the logical sense, in the objective sense, you've got to look, well, he's only been there for 4 games, right? But my logical head also says, well, you've been there for 4 games, but you're not showing anything that is either steadying the ship, is getting any kind of improvement or cohesiveness with the players. But most importantly, you haven't inspired these players to fight for the team, fight for the badge, fight for the club, but especially fight for the fans. And every single time he's saying, we've got to show something for the fans. Well, how many times you got to keep on saying that at every press conference, and keep on failing to deliver that? Not only as yourself in terms of inspiring and motivating and coaching the players, but also the players themselves for not, showing it as well. I mean, how many times have we got to hear this? My real fear here is that we're going to see a big issue on Sunday in terms of the way he sets up. And if he does, if it is something that we're kind of scratching our heads again, going, what the hell are you doing? That'll be it for me. Because this last week, I've got to say, although I am vehement in my opinion that he is wrong for us, I was kind of doubting myself a little bit, and I was kind of thinking, you know what, maybe I was a bit too harsh, maybe I was a bit too quick to judge, all that kind of stuff. Not that I totally disagree with what I've already said, because I don't. I completely still stand by what I've said about his performance so far. But I thought, well, maybe we should just give him a chance just to put his feet under the table and just get in and get these players. Look, these players just aren't good enough. And I've been saying that the whole time anyway. Like, the players are just not good enough. He's dealing with a whole problem with the club, and we know what the problem is with the club in terms of players and the squad that we've got and everything. There's no doubt there's problems there. Right, there's no doubt there's problems with the squad and everything, but if you're playing players completely out of position and picking the wrong players in terms of mobility, then we've got a bit of an issue. So if it was against any kind of lesser team, and I say a lesser team in inverted commas because we're the worst of the worst, I've been saying this repeatedly, right? Wolves, whilst they haven't got a win, they can't even buy a win. They seem to be a lot better than us. They seem to be a hell of a lot better. They seem to be able to put up a fight much better than us. So I would say we are the worst team in the league right now. Not Wolves. We are. It's just that we've played different teams and they've got worse results than us. But I think they're better than us. If we had to play Wolves tomorrow, well, we've already played them in the League Cup, right? But if we had to play them in the league, I'd say they'd beat us. Look, they lost 4-3 to Chelsea the other night. Scoring goals. It was a banger of a game, and they're scoring goals. So you kind of look at us and you think, well, okay, if we had a lesser team, as I say, once again in inverted commas, that we're going to play, maybe you could experiment a little bit. Maybe you could think, okay, we could try a few things. This is Nuno, right? But he hasn't got the opportunity to that. He hasn't got the ability to do that, to experiment properly. Let's face it, it's just we haven't got the margin to be able to experiment right now. It's quite simple. In terms of football is actually a very simple game. You know, there's going to be a lot of people who's going to try and convince you that it's a difficult game. It's about coaching. It's about this and tactics and strategy and everything like that. Fundamentally, it's actually a very simple game. It's about setting up players, the best players that you've got, in their best positions. And you've got to have a basic understanding to be able to work the ball from your side of the pitch to the opponent's side of the pitch and get the ball in the back of the net. That's and stop the other team from scoring. In its most simplistic term, that's essentially what it is. Right now, obviously, there's a lot more intricacies than that. But if you fail at the very start, at the foundation of a team, to not put players in the right position, or put players that are completely ineffective in that position, or put players that can't run effectively, or can't match up against the opposition, you're failing. You're failing the very basics, of football. Let me just have a couple of comments here. Tim said, hello, I give us no chance against Newcastle at the beginning of the week, but like normal now the game is a few days away, I think we can get something out of this. Do you know, I'm always the same in many ways. It's hope. It's a lot of the time it's false hope, and a lot of the time I always say it to myself, Alf, you're deluded, right? I talk to myself, yeah, you're deluded, because I always think, you know, we're going to smash him. We're going to absolutely smash him. We're going to get him there, put up a fight. And sometimes in the past, when I've seen us in previous years and even relegation years, I've seen the fight there. And I've seen this when we had, like under Pards, when we were doing badly, and then Tevez and Mascherano came in, and then it took a while Mascherano didn't really feature that much, did he? I've got a picture of him on my wall, actually, up here. Then it took a while for Tevez to get his feet, in order. A bit where second half of the season we beat Man United and stuff like that, and it was just but we had that fight. There was a fight there. So what I'm not seeing with us right now, we don't have a fight. We just don't have a fight. We got nothing there. It's almost like we're walking or running through treacle. There's nothing there. So I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful. Of course I am. And I always dream. And it's a dream, really. It's a deluded dream, but it's a dream that we're going to go out there and we're going to show the tune what's what. You know, you're coming from all the way up there. You're going to come all the way down here. And guess what? We're going to send you back all the way up back there with your tails between your legs. Right? That's what I'm hoping. But the reality is, no. I cannot see us doing anything. Look, I don't want to give the game away, right? I'll whisper here so nobody else can hear me, right? But this is it. We're crap at defending. This is it. We are crap at defending. So they have tall players for all set pieces, right? And for any crosses, they got tall players in there who can score. Walter Marder, right? Can score. If we concede corners, we're in serious trouble. If we let any crosses come in, we're in serious trouble. If we give away free kicks because we're trying to fight, right, we're in serious trouble. We cannot defend. We cannot defend. So you could argue that Nuno's first job was to 100% focus on the defensive side of us all over the park, but especially in defence. Regardless of what players that we've got. I know because our players are terrible, right? But, you know, so you got to pick the right players that can give you the best opportunity to defend. So against Arsenal, I thought, do you know what? In certain periods of the game, we showed a little bit of that. At Everton, we were definitely showing that. But the last two games, we didn't show it at all. So he's failing. He's failing to address the biggest issue that we have. We cannot defend. So any Newcastle fan watching this, if you are watching it, right? I doubt you are. But if any Newcastle fan going to watch the game on Sunday or travelling down and, you know, you're going to watch it, your minds should be focused on West Ham cannot defend. You're going to hope that your players and your manager can look at that and make hay where the sun shines, basically. You've got to say, right, we've got to attack West Ham, we've got to put crosses, we've got to get corners in, get those free kicks, set pieces, get tall guys on there, because they can't head it, they can't defend. They're all over the place defensively. Then you've got to look at, okay, well, how about protecting their back line? This is Newcastle fans, how they're going to think about us. Well, our midfield is pretty shocking. Or if we put Potts, Fernandes, Magas in there, or any combination of those three in terms of there, well, they're kind of unproven, one in starting games, but also in defending or helping to defend our defence, especially a team against like Newcastle, right? And how good they can be in the air, especially in the air. Let alone us having any kind of offensive play. So it's really stacked against us. It's really stacked against us if we're going to be able to do anything at the London Stadium. Yes, I'm hopeful. Of course I am. I'm absolutely hopeful. I cannot tell you how hopeful I am about us, facing them. But I'm fearful as well. I'm absolutely fearful that we're just gonna fold. They're gonna get a goal, and the heads will go down. Our confidence is as fragile as tissue paper, right? It just one slight bit of pressure and it'll tear, and it's just. It's so poor, so bad, that it will just disintegrate before our eyes. And we've seen it so many times before, right? With better teams. We've had better teams before. We've had better players, and we've disintegrated. We've capitulated to teams before. So this could be one of those games that it's not going to be great to watch. In fact, it's going to be terrible. And that urge to pull you as a fan out of the ground like this at 50, 60 minutes, it's going to be so strong. It's going to be so strong, especially if we're getting spanked. Because it's almost become part of a norm as well for fans to leave. If you do that, that's entirely up to you. I'm not here to judge, and I don't judge fans leaving, but, I don't. I personally don't. I'm the idiot who stays right to the very end, screaming and shouting and trying to G up the players. But I'm not sure what there is to G up anymore. That's the problem. That Newcastle's midfield is a lot better. It's a lot better than ours that are established midfield players. But they're definitely better than our unproven midfield players, which we've pinning all our hopes on. We're pinning our hopes on the likes of Potts, Magassa and Fernandes to do something in midfield. We're pinning our hopes on Paqueta to be played a bit deeper in a 10 or something like that, so that he can be a bit of a playmaker for us, but also get his foot in. We're pinning our hopes on the likes of Somerville and Bowen to be able to skin their left back and right back respectively, to get crosses in, to cut inside, to take shots on goal. We're pinning our hopes on Wilson, really, realistically, to give us anything up front. We're pinning our hopes on our defenders being able to defend when they haven't been able to show anything all season. Again, I've said this in the past. Look, I've said this in the past. If Nuno turns this around, if we get a result tomorrow, but especially if he turns it around for the whole season, I will doff my cap. I will say I got it wrong. And I will say it. I'm always happy to admit when I'm wrong, because I do get it wrong a lot, right? But I've also said it'll be a bloody miracle if he does it. It'll be an absolute miracle. But miracles don't happen by chance, right? Luck isn't just luck. There's always a bit of method in achieving luck. There's always a bit of method in achieving miracles in inverted commas, right? And he hasn't shown it. He hasn't shown it so far. Tom Linsky, Wolves managed to put 3 past Chelsea. Yeah, they did. Yeah, They look really good as well. When was the last time we put 3 past anyone, let alone a top 6 side? Well, we put 3 past Forest, didn't we? And they were, I suppose they were a top 6 side last season, so there we go. But if you look at the Forest game, we were not looking good at all. I mean, they were missing every opportunity that they had. But it was only until he made the subs, Potter made the subs, and then especially when Somerville came on, that's when it opened it up for us. But that was long periods of the game when we were not getting anything. You know, I was thinking the other day, I think I was remarking as well, when we were doing well under Moyes, especially under the COVID period, and also the season afterwards as well, when we were getting wins. I think a lot of people forget, those who are pro Moyes and everything like that. I was pro in terms of when we were winning. I could see what we were doing. I just didn't enjoy the football, and I thought at some point he needed to go. So that's where I stood on it. And the quality of the football, it wasn't entertaining after a while, right? But I think a lot of people forget that even under Moyes, right, a lot of the games we just didn't look good in, and we might have, got a draw or got a win here and there. And at the end of the day, results are results. That's all that matters in terms of the league table and where we are and all that sort of stuff, right? But it wasn't good. It wasn't good football. It wasn't good. It wasn't convincing, right? Or we would win, let's just say by a couple of goals or sometimes 3 goals, right? You just said, Tom, 3 goals. Very rarely, but we win that. But it come very, very late in the game, and people, on the stats or on the result, it looks good. Oh, West Ham beat so-and-so team 3-0. But it happened after the 80th minute. It came very late in the game. And, but some people would say, well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when it comes. It comes. But the point I'm trying to say, for the vast majority of that game, it was dire. It just didn't work at all. It just so happened that particular day, that team were really dire. Like, was it last season? I was at the Man United game. We were absolutely crap. Man United should have put 2 or 3, 4 passes. I think they missed a couple of sitters. But we came away. What was it? 2-1? Did we win 2-1? I think we're all walking out the stadium. Yeah, happy. We're all walking out the stadium going, what the hell? We got away with that one. How did we win that? Right? Okay, well, maybe it was just me. Maybe it was just me just thinking that. So it's not always, we can get wins, but it doesn't have to be a glorious win. I get it. But we haven't seen that in such a long time. This is even before Nuno, right? We haven't seen that in such a long time. Now we're kind of, pinning our hopes on a manager that hasn't shown us anything so far, on players that definitely haven't shown us anything in terms of quality, but they haven't shown us anything in terms of endeavour, in terms of intensity, in terms of fight. So I want them to go there and at least, the very least, put up a bloody good fight. Because if they don't put up a fight, then they're going to get some serious negativity from the fans. They'll get it from me. They get it in both barrels from me. And I'll be there. If you're at the other end of the stadium, I sit right in the corner, stand at the corner flag, Billy Bonds, right? Billy Bonds and Trevor Brooking. That's where I stand. So if you're at the other end of the stadium and you can hear some lone voice screaming and shouting, saying, and I'll be saying something like, what's the matter with you? Come on, get up there. Where's the leaders? All that sort of stuff. That'll be me, by the way. That'll be me. That'll be yours truly. I'll be screaming and shouting and going, what the hell's going on? But I do it because I want to urge the players on and I want to instill a bit of fight into them. And it's not just a fight where a player will come up to us, in the corner flag, and he'll go like that, like Jufa's done a couple of times. Go, and I'm reacting, like saying, yeah, come on, that's what I want to see. I want to see a player get a bit animated, to get a bit narky, but also in the sense that, yeah, he wants us to, get involved. Yeah, I want to see that, because that shows a little bit of fight. But if a player does that, then just drifts off immediately, then all that's just for show. It doesn't mean anything. You're not doing anything. So if a player does that, then gets stuck in, is going in for tackles and running his heart out and chasing back and trying to do, and he's also doing this not just to the fans but to the rest of the team, his teammates saying, come on, let's go, we've got to get this, then to me is showing fight. That to me, regardless of the performance, regardless of the result, that shows a fight. That shows grit. That shows that you actually care, that you really want to do it. And this is what we're missing as fans. We're missing that kind of fight. That they're showing us. You know, Nuno keeps us saying, we've got to show the fans. We've got to show the fans. I don't know how many games you need, Nuno, to get the players to show the fans what they're about and what grit. Yeah. It's almost like the whole Premier League in terms of many ways. It's like there's no more fighters anymore. What happened to getting you to get stuck in, but there's no more fighters anymore? You kind of wonder what's going on. What is going on? We know what's going on with the club. We know all this, right? We know that. Yeah, that's a given. We know that. We know where we're at with that. But where we don't know where we're at is with this team and what Nuno can do with them. I don't think he can do anything. I certainly don't. We are a much poorer team than Newcastle United. I say they've got to be licking their lips. They've got to be thinking, if you're a Newcastle fan, you're thinking these are easy 3 points here. Yes, could always be miracles. There could always be an upset. And it will be an upset if we beat Newcastle United. No doubt. For me, in my mind, no doubt. It will be a massive upset if we beat them. But I tell you what, there's been nothing there that is giving me any kind of hope so far. And this is why I'm so adamant that Nuno Espirito Santo he's not the manager that I thought he was. He's not the I was quite confident when he came in. And I think there was a little air of confidence. We thought, okay, fine, yeah, look, it might not be the kind of football that we want. It might not be the kind of football that is going to entertain us. We know what kind of a manager he is in terms of defensive manager and all that kind of stuff, right? But we thought, okay, hold on, he's gonna shore us up. He's gonna make us counter-attacking football can be quite good. In certain times, okay, it might have a certain lifespan. But in my mind, as long as he's not one-dimensional, as long as he can change it up in terms of tactics against different teams, and can change it up in the game, then I'm thinking, okay. So if there is a positive, and I'm clutching at straws here, right? But within the games, he has tried to make substitutions to affect change. At least he's made substitutions. I can't even believe I'm saying it. He's made substitutions. Whoopie friggin' do, right? But it's been marginally better. But what he hasn't done, then, he started the next game with the team that was working a lot better at the end of the previous game. We can all see it. We've all said it. We've all said it to ourselves. We've all said it to our friends. We've all said it in groups and forums and YouTube videos. I'm sure I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have, because everybody, it's a logical thing, right? Barring injuries or barring strains or whatever like that, right? Or suspensions or anything like that. But he hasn't done that. So you kind of think, well, where's the hope coming from? So then, obviously, I made a video as well talking about the kids, the kids coming through. Yeah, we could have a couple more kids on the subs bench. Could they make the match day squad? But I'm going to be really looking hard and say, well, who else is on that match day squad? Who else is on the bench? Obviously, who is he starting with? What's his setup going to be? Because if he starts with 2 slow players in midfield, right? I'm not saying he's going to start with Souček and Irvin, but let's just say he starts with Souček and another Rodriguez or something like that. Friggin' hell. Then you kind of think, look, I said in a previous video, look, I feel this way about Nuno. I think he's the wrong manager, but come back to me in 2 games' time where he's done this, or where he's given us poor performances, under his leadership, under his management, and you tell me whether you still think he's the right man for the job, right? That's what I was saying. And I still say that. I still believe that. If you believe that he's still the right manager, come back to me after 2 games and let me know. Well, actually, I think you can come back to me after this next game. If he sets up in a similar kind of way, not necessarily with the same players, but in a similar kind of way, then you got to come back to me and see whether he's the right man for the job. If defensively, which is the number one priority in terms of the way we're playing right now, if defensively we're not shored up in any way, shape or form, we don't improve at all, you got to come back to me and you got to justify to me. Well, you don't have to justify. Nobody has to justify anything. But it would be nice if you could come and justify why you think he's still the right manager for the job. Because I think by then it's 5 games and you think, well, if it's worse and worse and worse, then obviously there's a big problem here, regardless of what the players are, regardless of who we're playing against, and so on and so forth. Even if, we've talked about this in the past in terms of fans, different managers who've come to West Ham, or we played them, and they put, 11 players behind the ball, they're parking the bus, as it were. Allardyce used to do it all the time, remember he played against Chelsea and we parked the bus, as it were. And then Mourinho was really hopping mad afterwards. And then a few weeks later, Mourinho did exactly the same to another team. And so it's not parking the bus when it's Mourinho, is it? It's only when it's Allardyce. But my point is, I'm not saying that we have to park the bus. But what I'm saying is, if that's what it takes just to give us a bit of confidence and give us a bit of momentum to go up against a better team, which we all acknowledge Newcastle are, then maybe that's exactly what we need to do. So if Nuno comes out with that completely defensive setup just to hold on for a draw, do you know what? I'll be like, it's not what I want to see. Of course it isn't. It's going to be frustrating hell. But I tell you what, there's something good to see when you're being battered by a team and you're just defending everything. You're getting your head on anything. You're throwing your body at everything, and they just can't penetrate you, and they just can't get a shot on goal, or every shot that they have is being charged down or it's being saved by a great keeper. There's something kind of, rabble-rousing about that. There's something like that. Yeah, it's come on. You're not going to get past us. Yeah, and that's the way I feel about it. It's not great to watch in terms of attacking play, but it's something that can really galvanize a team and definitely really galvanize a fan base and say, yeah, come on, let's go, we got this fight, we got this, right? And if we can show that, if Nuno can show that and set us up ultra defensively just for this one game, then I'll be like, okay, I can accept it. I don't necessarily like it in terms of attractive football, but I can accept it because I can acknowledge that's where we're at. We are terrible at defending, right? So we could talk, and I could talk about, attacking play, and we need to be attacking. We need to go for it. We need to, put them under pressure. We definitely do. We need to get the ball forward. We need to get it to Somerville and Bowen. We need to get Wilson in the game. We need whoever's up front. We need to get, if Paqueta plays, which he is going to play, right? We need to give him the space and the support by other players to make him effective, right? We need to counter their good midfield. This is going to be a hard task. But if we can't, our shape should immediately revert to a defensive setup where we're trying to block. It's got to be like a high press. In fact, we're trying to put those challenges all over the pitch. We've got to make it ugly for them. We've got to make it that they feel rushed and hurried, that they can't get at us. And the only reason we've got to do that is to protect our defence, which is so poor. So if he does that, I'd be like, okay, Nuno, right, you've started to understand, and it's taking you a bloody long time, but you've started to understand. But also, I get it, because you're starting to let me have a bit of faith in you, right? But even that I can't see him doing, because he hasn't shown it so much, or he hasn't shown it at all, really. Look, if we go down with a fight and we lose 2 or 3-0, I'm expecting a 3-0 loss, right? But if we go down with a 3-0 win, but we've put up a hell of a fight, I'll be like, okay. Yeah, we were just beaten by the better team today. It is what it is. Of course I'm not going to be happy, but you accept it. You're like, you're beaten by the better team. They are better than us. It doesn't matter what we say. They are better than us. Full stop. next paragraph, move on to the next story, right? But if we show no fight at all, and even if they beat us 1-0, or even if it's a draw and we show nothing, and they just end up being a really crappy team on the day, right? Then you're going to be walking away thinking, bloody hell, come on now, right? But if we get spanked and not showing anything, then that's really going to be a bitter pill to swallow. That's a result, or that's a performance that I just don't think we're going to accept. We're going to accept, and and maybe there'll be a lot more fans who will see what I've been seeing this whole time and start saying what I've been saying and not give him the leeway. And people can call it insane, when you get a brand new manager and then you're immediately saying that he's not right, we should get a new manager, right? But I counter that because objectively you got to look at it and think, yeah, that is a stupid thing. Surely you got to give the manager time. Surely he's got to be able to figure it out. But if it's obvious that it's a continued lots of bad decisions and it just gets worse and worse and worse, right? Then why not? Why do you have to stick with somebody like that? So we see this in industry all the time. People get into positions of management and they make really bad mistakes straight away. And they get worse and worse and they're taken out. There's no kind of, we're going to give them time to bed in. No, not if they're making really bad mistakes and it just continues to get worse. Now, you can accept poor performance, but not in terms of making catastrophic mistakes. Crikey, we saw it with Conservative leader, became Prime Minister. What was the bloody name? What was her name? Liz Truss, who became Prime Minister for a few weeks. And then all of a sudden she was making howlers. Right, off you go. Yeah. So if it can happen for the leader of the country, I'm sure it can happen for Nuno, right? If he's not getting this team, this band of misfits, as I say, if he's not getting them even fighting or even competing, because this is what he talks about. He talks about competing. I've said this in a video. He talks about competing and all that kind of stuff. If he can't manage to do that, then he's definitely the wrong man for us. If Nuno has no clue how to set us up, still let Robson and Potts at it for the rest of the season, they're now our players. Well, there's an argument there. There's an argument for that to happen. Look, and that's happened lots of times in the past. Loads of clubs have done that. They've got academy coaches in, and it may work for a short period of time. But again, we've got to look at miracle. Are we expecting miracles here? We definitely expect. I think we're all clutching at straws. We're all hoping that if these first team players can't do it, then we're going to get the academy kids in. Liz Truss, it was Liz Truss. Thank you, Michael Rice. We're going to get these academy kids in, and they can do no worse, right? The problem is, we can get very disappointed with kids that we're putting in, and it's just too soon for them. So I think there's a lot of kids there who. The potential is there, no doubt, and they're doing great in the under-21s, let's say, and a couple of the under-18s are in the under-21s, and they're looking really good. But in terms of first-team football, man football, as it were, there's very few kids that can come in and play man football and sustain it, right? And it's all well and good when the spirits are high and the momentum is there, but when you're in a dogfight, when you're really backs against the wall, everybody gets nervous. Yeah, the first team players get nervous. The experienced heads, the old heads, get nervous. Everybody's nervous. Everybody's down, and the young players coming in, they're looking for some kind of guidance. They're looking for the senior players to sort of tell them what to do a little bit and give them the encouragement. And if it's not there, it's just going to fail. So we're all hoping that if any of the younger players do feature, that they'll be brought on gradually, but to be thrown in at the deep end and on with numbers of young players, it's a recipe for, not for disaster, but the chances of it working is few and far between, right? You know, we've got to look at the players that we've already got, and we've got to look at saying, well, Marshall or Wilson. We've got to be looking at Potts, Magassa, Fernandez. We've got to be looking at Juve or Somerville. We've got to be looking at some kind of difference in defensive pairing of Kilman and Todibo. Personally, I don't want to see them in there. But whether we, just keep Kilman and put somebody else in there, Igor, or I've suggested even getting a Souček in there, or a Souček and Igor in there. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. This is what we pay Nuno $6 million a year to figure this out, and he hasn't been able to figure this out. Granted, we haven't got the players, we haven't got the strength and depth of the squad to be able to achieve this easily, but at the same time, we've got to make changes, right? Left back and right back, I said in a previous video, I'm pretty content with a small C on that. It's looking bleak, isn't it? It is looking very bleak. Do you know what? Come tomorrow, come Sunday morning when I'm on my way to the game, I'll probably be feeling a lot happier because I get that excited feeling. Bloody hell. I'm getting on in years now, but I still get really excited about it. Granted, since I'm not going with my lad anymore, it's taken the shine off going to the games for me. I've got to say, because I always really enjoyed going with my lad. I always loved taking him from a kid, and then now he's living away, so he doesn't get to many games either. But I love going with my lad. I just love it. I love being, you father and son time. I love that. But when he's not there, it's kind of, it's all right, but I always get that excited feeling about that anticipation. And I've got my pre-match rituals, and I'm sure lots of people have got pre-match rituals. If you go to the game, whether you're getting some food, whether you're getting some pie and mash, whether you're getting to get some breakfast somewhere, whether you're going to the pubs, different pubs, that you want to go to, or not, if you just go straight to the game, whatever it is. So we've all got our pre-match rituals of what we do. And even at the London Stadium, we all form habits of what we like to do. So there's different things that I enjoy doing, and especially when I was with my lad, I enjoyed doing certain things. Now I'm by myself most of the time, and unless I meet people. And I used to go to the supporters club a lot, and I'm still a member of the supporters club, but go there and it's not the same as it used to be as well. And a lot of the blokes that I used to meet there just don't go anymore. So it's all kind of fragmented. That for a couple of seasons we're always meeting up as well. So that changed a lot. So, but that early anticipation doesn't change. I still feel that we can go there and we can smash them. We can smash them, right? And it will never change. It will never change until I see the starting lineup, and then I'll be like, and then I'll make my decision whether I think we're going to have a good day or a bad day. Unfortunately, most games that I go to, we either lose or we just have a really crap performance. It's pretty shit, right? In fact, was it the game that was there last season? We beat, is it Ipswich? Was it Ipswich? I can't remember what it was. 3-1, 4-1. I can't remember the score. That's how bloody shot away I am in terms of memory. But I came away thinking, yeah, that was a good game. Yeah, we did well. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Then you go the next week, or you go to the next home game, and it's just like, there's nothing there again. You're like, bloody, what happened to that game? What happened to that squad? But anyway, so I'm sure I will get positive, but it will be positivity not based on anything tangible, right? It'll be positivity from just historically, just hoping, dreaming that we can do something against Newcastle, right? But I acknowledge they're so much better than us. Their setup is better. Everywhere, everything about them is better in terms of their players, in terms of their fight, in terms of their commitment. Look, I hark back to when Newcastle were playing Liverpool, I don't know how many games into the season it was, and Gordon got sent off. Yeah, you could point the fingers at Gordon and say, come on, you just got sent off. You really set the team back here against Liverpool. But at least he showed some fight. At least he showed a lot of fight there. And we haven't, no, I'm not saying that we go into, studs up on players and all that sort of stuff and going for leg breakers. I'm not saying that at all. And I would never advocate that or condone that. But what I'm saying is that to go in with hard challenges and fights and stand up and be counted and, make Newcastle and any team know that you're there. That's what we expect. That's what we need. I'm just not convinced that it's there. That's the thing. I'm not sure we have the quality. The quality isn't there. I know that. The quality isn't there. But I just don't think we have the fight. That's what I'm concerned about. But I'm sure come Sunday morning, I'll tuck into some food. If it was a Saturday game, I was going to try and get over to Bethnal Green and get to Palich's, which I've never been to before. And I was watching something the other day, and I've seen Palich's quite a few times mentioned. And I was watching this guy doing food reviews, and he was there, and he was saying it's the best breakfast in London. I'll be like, mate, it's just a breakfast. You know what I mean? How good can it be? So I've never been there, so I've got to go there. I've been meaning to go there for years, but no, I'm definitely going to try and get there on a Saturday game, because I think they're open on a Saturday, but I don't think they're open on a Sunday. But anyway, I usually it depends. It actually depends what time I get to the game, actually, or get to the stadium area, whether I got time. I'm hoping to leave early and just get lots done before the game, go to a few pubs, and just have a little, couple of Diet Cokes, as it were, and that's about it. And make my way to the game. I'll see if I can get to the supporters club as well and put my head in there and see what's what. But listen, all I can say is let's be hopeful. That's all we can be. You've got to be hopeful. Blind faith, isn't it? Blind faith that something's going to happen. The reality, it's realities. Realities aren't, that's what kind of keeps you grounded, isn't it? And the reality is that we haven't been good. The hope is that we can be a lot better. And Nuno and the players have got to try and deliver that. Yeah. Can they deliver it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining, guys, tonight. I know it's a bit of an impromptu session. So it's go and enjoy your Halloween if you've got kids and everything like that. I can hear loads of kids outside actually in the street. I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting night. People banging on the door and all that kind of stuff. Give me sweets. No, fuck off. All that kind of stuff. But listen, I'll be at the game on Sunday, of course. If you are going to the game, please, if you recognise me, come and say hello. I'm always up for a chat and everything like that. But if not, if you want to stay away, it's not a problem. I don't bite, honestly. But I actually don't know where I'll be before the game in terms of pubs or whatever. I kind of go to places randomly. I don't. Especially since I stopped going on a regular basis to the supporters club. The problem with the supporters club, it kept on changing venues, and they kept on changing, well, are we going to stay in this place? We're not going to stay in this place. So it's in a permanent place right now, but I'm not so keen on the place it is. I much prefer the last place. And we were upstairs before, and it was a much better place, but there was problems there as well. But actually, before we moved there, we were more on the Hackney Wick side, and I actually really liked a couple of places there. I know it was a shame that we couldn't stay there because I actually really liked those places. So usually, if I come from that direction, because I usually walk from that direction, I tend to come from Bow, and then I walk in, and then I might go to a couple of pubs, which I'll never forget the bloody name. I always forget the names of the pubs that I go to. And then I'll have a Swift Half or Swift Diet Coke, and then go to the stadium area and either supporters club or go to I forgot what they call it now. They're by the old thingamajig where the supporters club used to be, because they've changed that into a big. So I sometimes go into there, and then sometimes I go to other pubs on the other side. It depends how much time I got. Carpenters I was in last time as well. So if I'm around and you see me, come solo, by all means. Let's be hopeful. Yeah, up the hammers. That's all I can say. Up the hammers. Up the hammers. We've got to do something, right? We've got to do something this weekend, because let's not forget about losing. Because if we do, then obviously our situation just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It compounds itself, right? But all I can say is up the hammers, up the hammers, up the hammers. I'm going to keep on saying it. Up the hammers, and hopefully we'll get somewhere. We'll do something. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Just have a great night. Have a great weekend. If you go into the game, travel safe, be safe, and do all the right things, and travel home safe afterwards as well. And yeah, onwards and upwards. Catch you again. Bye now.